producers? What's up, producers? It's your boy Matt from Music Producer School. It's Saturday. Hope you're doing well. We're going to do a quick one today to finish up DJing part 3. I'm going to be showing you some of the tips and tricks that I've learned from being a DJ and all the cool little things that a lot of people probably don't think about when they are DJing, or if you've never DJed, these are going to be some cool little tips for you. So once again, as always, be sure to join the Music Producer School community. Today is Saturday, which means right after this class, I'm going to be going over to the Producer School community, and I'll be listening to your tracks that you post there to give feedback on them. It's usually a lot of fun. We've had some great tracks submitted, so be sure if you want to be a part of that, join the Producer School community. It's private, but it's free. I'll approve you as soon as I can get over there. And we'll go check out what you guys are producing. I always like listening to your stuff. So with the final part of DJing part 3 today, again, I explained in the beginning of this week that I wasn't really going to be covering, like DJ specific, like live techniques, meaning I'm not going to show you how to scratch or how to beat mix or anything like that, because the focus here is on producing music. There's tons of stuff out there for actual DJ type techniques and the physical part of it. But I wanted to show y'all one more pretty crucial technique that I picked up along the way from DJing and just kind of being exposed to a lot of different music over the years. And it kind of relates to things we've talked about with tempo, a lot to do with what we've talked about with drum programming. So I wanted to kind of cover that today. So what I've talked about so far was with this idea of with DJing, I showed y'all some of the softwares you can use to where you can start you can analyze your songs in your MP3 music library to where you can actually see the BPMs of the songs, and with that wheel that I showed you guys a couple days ago, you can actually see the keys of your songs. So if you haven't done that yet, I would highly suggest you go grab one of those tools. The tools really quickly, again, were Rekordbox, Virtual DJ, or Mixed in Key. They have different versions of the software, but I believe you can get free stuff for all of that to try it out. So once you can get something like, and again, I believe Rekordbox is free in order to analyze your songs like this. Once you can do that, you can sort your music collection by BPM, and you can start seeing which songs are where on the BPM scale, and you can start to kind of relate songs together. So you'll kind of get a group of songs that say like 95. What's up, Joey? Thanks for saying hello. You can start getting groupings of BPM, so you'll find a group of your songs that are say like 95 BPM to like 105 BPM, and you're going to notice that a lot of the functions in those songs, they kind of operate the same way, meaning you have similar types of patterns, similar types of instrumentation, similar types of drum stuff that's going to make those songs feel a certain way. And when I say feel a certain way, I'm talking about groove. And that's kind of the focus of the lesson today, is groove. Now, if you don't understand fully what groove is, it's kind of like it's a little bit not as straightforward as it probably should be or could be. But I'm gonna try and explain that to you today and kind of give you a sense of how groove can change the whole feel of a song. And it can be at the same BPM, but the feel could be just a lot different. So let's go over to Ableton here, and let me see if I can get a good little example for you going. I'll do like a simple one, and then I'll do a little more in-depth one here. So let's say I had, let me get a drum kit loaded up here. Let's throw this one on, just something quick. So we're gonna start this track at, let's say, about 122, right? So let me find All right, so let's do this one. So I'm also probably going to just lay these out on the window here so it's a little bit easier to follow what we're doing. So let's just do a 2-bar loop here, right? So we're just going to paste on our quarter notes here, just a 4 on the floor pattern, right? All right, so now let's grab a little snare. Let's get a nice more fat snare, that'll work. That's another little tip for any of you guys that are maybe working in Ableton. I like to load up drum kits so that I can quickly just kind of bounce around and hear the sounds, and especially if you have a MIDI keyboard or controller hooked up, you can just kind of bounce around and listen to the different sounds. And then if you like actually working on the grid like this, you can just do a right click on the sample and click show in browser, and that will allow you to then just grab it and you can just paste it right in the arrangement view here. So let's listen to this. All right, basic 4 on the floor, right? Let me throw this other one down here. Then let's find a little hi-hat. We'll grab this tambourine and do it with this. It doesn't really matter. Again, I'm always trying to tell y'all, think about in terms of function. So that's another thing. Like for this example, I'm going to use this tambourine. I was originally going to use a hi-hat, but it doesn't matter because it's all about the way the sample functions. All right. So if I do this, we've got just our basic 4 on the floor pattern going here, right? All right, and that's fine. Now, the thing is, let's say we did this pattern, which of course this is about as basic as it gets, but let's say we did this pattern for a verse, and we're doing it for the whole verse, this basic general pattern. Well, let's maybe, when we get to the chorus, again, you're always trying to think contrast. So how can we change this so that it's a little bit, different each time so it doesn't get boring to the listener? So I want you to listen to the difference between the first pattern that we did, and now if I shift this over to the 8th beat, which is considered the 8th note, which is considered the upbeat, 1 and 2 and 3. Listen to how that changes the groove of this passage. So just that one little change like that, it almost makes the song feel like it speeds up, but we're not changing tempo. We're just doing that and beat with the hi-hat or the tambourine or whatever it may be. Now, another thing you can do for stuff like this to mess and kind of change your groove up is we could make this shorter, because this is a little bit of a longer tambourine sound, right? So we could also make this sound shorter by doing this. So you have the ability, just by not changing the tempo, but by changing the groove. Now, this is about the most basic example of groove that I can show you. We're going to do a more complicated one in a second. But just by changing the function of your percussion, especially, because percussion primarily drives groove in songs. So what you'll find is a lot of times you'll have, and this is especially true for hi-hats. Let me find me a little hi-hat we can use. So this is just a regular basic hi-hat sound. So if I just did, say, like an 8th note hi-hat thing like this. And let's just go back to our 2-bar. Well, we could do 4 so in case I want to change. All right, it sounds like we've got some warping going on. We don't want that. So if we have that, it's a very straightforward beat, right? I mean, it's not really changing much, just straight on eighth notes. Or let's actually just do maybe straight on quarter notes again. So let's just do that. Quarter notes, and you'll be able to hear the groove a little bit better in this example. So just straight quarter notes. Now, if we go now and find, let's see if we can get... Let's try something like this. Now, this is where groove really starts to come into play. So I have my straight eighth hi-hats right here, right? Very straight ahead, forward thing. But now with this piece of percussion is where I can start putting some groove in, right? So let's try right there. So just that one little note right there, all of a sudden makes this not a boring straight on the grid hi-hat pattern, and we have a little bit of groove starting to happen. So I would probably do, you know, just maybe every other one. And then maybe copy one more. And I'm not even putting that one on the grid. So you can start getting these little grooves going very simply like this. And I gotta say, this is the one thing that gave me a hard time in the beginning, because I would listen to all my favorite producers, especially like for hip hop, like Manny Fresh, some of these other guys like that, where they would always come up with these super cool grooves. And it was all, I didn't realize how important percussion was to groove. Like, I was so focused on getting, you know, those hi-hat patterns and those hi-hat rolls. And you really, it's kind of easy to overlook groove coming from your percussion. And this is really where it comes from, is, you know, these little pieces of percussion. And the cool thing about with the percussion is, like right here, I have it on the grid, but I could also take it off the grid a little bit. And now you can get even more interesting grooves. And it feels a little bit looser, a little more human-like. And the closer you bring this to your snare on the 2 and the 4, it's going to feel even a little more laid back. Because I used to kind of think, oh, I need to push my 2 and 4 of the snare back or forward, which you can do that. But the real groove primarily comes most of the time from this percussion. So again, you can just hear how just that little bit gives it a nice little feel. So I wanted to also show you how, let's get rid of this groove percussion for a moment. And let me pull in my simple piano here. And again, I'm going to go to my trusty MIDI songwriter chords. And let's say we were writing something in, let's just say C major. Let's do C major. Let's do A minor. To F major. C major 7, A minor, F major. All right, so I want to bring this A major down an octave. Do the same thing over here. And let's bring this one down an octave as well. So we're just going to walk it down. So again, everything's on the grid. It's very, you know, cold and calculated. It's not grooving whatsoever. So let's see what we can do to get some groove on this thing. So this is where, again, I'm going to consolidate these clips individually so that we can start moving some things around and get some groove going. So again, all we got to do is take these clips Let's try to move it back even a little more. I think I like the first one. So I'm shortening these so that I can copy and paste them and get a little more funk going on with them, right? So something like that. Again, I'm taking the alternating. I'm starting off on a downbeat, and then I'm bringing it on an upbeat. Downbeat, and that closes out that phrase. And then when we start the new chord, I'm on a downbeat. But I'm actually, if you think about the bar, the quarter note from beat 3 to beat 4, I'm essentially on an upbeat here, starting the new chord, and I'm on an upbeat here. So you got to kind of mix and match these things to get some cool groove happening. So if you're starting out, again, this was a difficulty I had, was I would always kind of put the notes like on the grid, but I wouldn't be thinking downbeat, upbeat. I would always just say, okay, beat 1, beat 3, beat 4. And when you do that, you start coming out with just very boring stuff. Kind of more like this. So we want to keep that groove happening. So this is kind of the beginning of how you can get some groove going. Again, thinking those contrast things, downbeat here, upbeat here, get it kind of moving. But what I wanted to show you is, and let me, since I'm in the kind of housey mood today, let me switch this out and get my classic house piano happening. Inspire me a little more to do this example. I believe it is this one. All right, cool. So let's grab my pitch plug in, and now that we have this particular piano on, I want to bring everything up an octave. All right. So I wanted to show you now, to kind of close this lesson off with the idea of groove, how by manipulating some of this stuff, you can make your song feel almost completely different. So right now we've got this kind of bouncy, house thing going on. But what if we did something to where we stuck on the downbeats at first? So that means we got to get rid of this upbeat stuff. So listen to the difference of that. Just by shifting those chords just a little bit to all the downbeats, you can hear the difference in the feel of the track. So again, if you listen to this on a loop, you can feel how the song almost feels slower in this first section, and then when we do the upbeat stuff, it feels faster. I'm not changing the drums. I'm not changing the tempo. I'm only changing the groove of these chords. Now the next section picks up. So just like that, you can start getting, again, you don't necessarily have to do the whole song this way, but if you're doing a chord progression in the verse, the listener is going to get bored after a while. So you got to be thinking in terms of groove, because you're not typically going to want to just, oh, well, when the chorus comes in, I'll just make the tempo 10 BPM faster. You don't want to do that. You need to think about, how can I change the groove up to make it sound new and interesting? That's what people get bored so quickly these days. They want a new something every few bars. So you can use these concepts to kind of make little changes in maybe the sections of your song, but when you go from one section to the next, you want to try and change it up, not drastically, but especially with this idea of groove in mind, you want to be able to change things so it sounds fresh. So if I was to put a sidechain thing on this now, I think this is the one that I normally use. You can hear how when we start this bouncy kind of thing here, it starts to actually get pretty cool. Back to the beginning. And again, you can hear how, I mean, it still amazes me to this day that it took me so long to learn this. But you can hear how just going back to that beginning section here, simply by changing the chord pattern, it feels like a whole different thing. So again, I'm not going to kind of go too much longer on this, but I just wanted to ensure that everyone here, again, in these beginning stages of producing, understands the importance of groove, because you can change so much within your song just by shifting these things just a little bit. And the way that this, to sum it up, relates to DJing, again, I highly recommend you grab some of those tools that I showed in the previous classes. If you missed that, go back to the previous two classes, especially I believe in the first class is where I was showing you where you can get this software, because you're going to be able to start taking some of your favorite songs that you like, and it doesn't have to be, you know, electronic dance music. It could be hip hop. This all works in all forms of music: rock, country, hip hop, everything. And start analyzing your song library with those softwares that I showed you, and start grouping your songs together and organize them by BPM, and you're going to start seeing songs that, and the cool thing about this, and the reason why I kind of think it's so important, is because we all have songs that we know and love in our head, right? So if you have a library of songs in your head, and you kind of know what the BPMs are, and you also, just by simply singing the song to yourself in your head, you can kind of get a sense of the groove, right? So if your favorite whatever song you see in Rekordbox or Virtual DJ or Mixed in Key, you're like, okay, that song's at 85 BPM. Well, the next time you're working on your own song and it's at 85 BPM or whatever BPM it's at, you can always think in your head, well, I know that such and such song was at this BPM, and how did their groove kind of go? And again, you're not stealing melodies or chord progressions or nothing like that. It's simply groove. And you're just thinking like, what was the bounce kind of like in that song? What was the the percussion doing to create groove? Or what were the chords doing to create groove? So again, the DJing aspect is get those analyzation tools so you can start building up this reference library in your head. And the point is, whenever you're in the studio, you should never get stuck, because no matter what BPM you're working at, you can always think, okay, I need to change something up, but I'm just so focused on what I've been doing, I can't take a step back and think of anything new. Well, now you get this library going in your head, or you can just go right into the software and pull up some songs that are around the same BPM as what you're doing, and you can start listening to their grooves, but listening intently. Because the thing is, as producers, we're always listening to everything, right? We're listening to the mix, to the samples, to the lyrics, to the vocals, to the mastering, the whole deal. So if you can learn to start separating these things, meaning, okay, I'm listening how powerful their drums are, or I'm listening to how loud their vocal is in the mix. I'm listening to how bright their mastering is. Or now this is another tool in your toolkit to start listening and paying attention to. Okay, now I'm only going to listen to this song and focus on what is the groove doing in this song. And maybe you can apply it to one of your productions. So, okay, I'm going to end it here, you guys. I'm about to head over to the Music Producer School community. I know we definitely have some tracks over there to listen to. So if you haven't joined it yet, be sure to join by clicking the link in the Facebook comments. I'm going to be over there in about 5 minutes. I'll be listening to your tracks. If you join the Producer School community and you want me to listen to your songs, be sure to post me a link. It could be YouTube, SoundCloud, whatever, on the producer community page, and I'm gonna go over there in about 5 minutes and I'll be listening to your tracks there. So everybody have a great weekend if I don't see you over there, and I appreciate it as always. Send me questions, comments to the Facebook page, and I will see y'all soon. Have a great one.